just don't circulate.
Because I just trying to say that there are lots of
Because
people to tell you.
because the coins with the Queen's portrait are still in circulation. You'll be there in those times.
So, I don't know about.
But it's actually uncirculated
So, how about you?
So it's a small one in Newley. You still one in Newley, official.
Do try and take the last.
Right, one and all, welcome to the ANS meeting. One, two, three, four. Meeting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is our first time here at Roseville. I hope you can all see the screen okay, because this is the way we conduct the meetings, usually showing coins on the screen. Not that well in focus, but I'm not there to adjust the focus just yet. We have apologies from John Veltmeyer, our President, David Lee, our Vice President, Les Carlisle, Ron Bolden, Lindy Hall, Joe Devlin, Marie Brad, and Morris Spurling. And since Matthew Lloyd isn't here yet, I'll add his name to the list. Next month's meeting is back to the Monday night meeting on the 13th of March at Noble Numismatics. So we have 3 meetings every year at Noble's, and they're in March, July and November, just before their auctions, where Jim will show us the highlight of the auctions. Also, ANS Queensland have advised that they are planning the conference for this year up in Coffs Harbour. And again, it'll be on the King's birthday long weekend, on the second Monday. And I haven't had any details yet, but I've made a website for it, and so far there's an indication that there's 15 members who will attend. We're getting to the stage where 15 is about the minimum number you want to run a conference. If you get much less than 15, it's not worth the effort. So this might be the last conference. We're all getting old. I wish to invite some of our members who we haven't seen before, and our new trial members. Yeah. Howard Hodgson from the UK is with us, and Howard has said that he's going to be here, join us again at Nobles in March. So we'll see you at the Nobles. Paul Neumann, who has taken a trip away from Indonesia and is here for what, the last 3 months?
For the last 3 months, but I will be back in July as well.
Right.
Sorry, the meeting in July will be when, Rob?
June is the conference,
Yeah.
and July is at Nobles. Right. Laurent Dillon. Laurent is a trial member. Anthony at the back. Anthony's trial member. George and Philip. So, welcome. We hope you enjoy it, and if you do, we hope you join us again when we're here. I know you can't make it on our normal meetings because you're at
Smithfield. It's the same. All 4 of us are the same.
Yeah.
Smithfield's name club.
Clashes.
It was it clashes at the same night as it's a Monday.
That's the way it goes. We clash with the Paramara Stand Club as well when we hold it on that Monday. But tonight's topic is Australian pre-decimal coins. Could anybody who brought anything raise their hands and let me know?
Well, just one thing. Could
Craig, is that the date with Rob, with John Bill?
Yeah, John, our president, John Veltmeyer, had apologised last month because he was going to the Berlin Money Fair, which was at the early February, and he'd have been just coming back now. But I got an email from him saying, giving his apology, because instead of going to the Berlin Money Fair, he went to hospital. When we saw him at the last meeting in December, he was saying that he found it hard to swallow, and he sort of had a growth at the back of his tongue that made it hard to swallow. And he was having trouble speaking at that last meeting. But he was still going to Berlin to the money fair. Well, unfortunately, the swelling at the back of his tongue got larger, got to the stage where he couldn't even swallow. And so he ended up going into hospital, and he's been more or less in and out of hospital since. And he was saying that they've done a lot of tests, and they found some cyst or other which they think has been affecting that area. And he's going in tomorrow, back into hospital tomorrow, to get a biopsy to see if it's cancerous and what can be done to remove the problem. So we hope that John will be back, but you know, he's had a lot of problems with his prostate earlier on, and now this it's not good. We had an apology from Vice President David Meekers. David lives in he lives at Robertson in the Central Highlands, and he said he had an appointment tonight. He didn't mind coming here, but he was worried about getting home because he has an appointment up in Barrow or something. So he gives his apology. But we're a goodly number, and I'm sure we'll have a good meeting. So we'll start off with I'll start off with Howard.
So, what I'm going to talk about, given that the topic is pre-decimal Australian coins, is the humble 1954 royal visit florin. And I know it's probably the least regarded of the four pre-decimal florins. And you may ask the question, what is there to say about it? But I think you'll find there's actually a lot more to say about it than you might realise. So if I just get organised here. So I didn't have any plastic envelopes with me, so I had to make do with the paper. But can we? Is that for? How much should I stand? Where should I stand?
No, stand where you were, which is fine.
Okay.
Sorry, there's much
I'll go over here.
Come back to Zoom.
So the story of this coin actually starts just after the Second World War, and when the war was over, it was announced that King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, better known to us as Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mother, would undertake a series of tours to what was then called the Dominions to thank them for their contribution to the war effort and to honour the sacrifices that have been made. And the very first tour was to South Africa, and that was at the beginning of 1947, and South Africa issued a commemorative coin, which was 5-shilling piece, and that was the first time since South Africa had its own coinage that it struck a crown. And although it doesn't say it's to commemorate the royal visit, that is indeed what it was. It is a type coin because although South Africa struck the coin again every year up until sort of decimalisation and the removal of silver from their coinage, it's the only one that says Rex Imperator. Although, as I say, they struck it again in 48. If you flip that over, Rod, can you flip it over? You've got obviously Georgius Sextus Rex because India had become independent. The tour was actually quite a big success from the royal family's point of view. So it was announced that a tour to Australia and New Zealand would take place at the beginning of 1949. And the tour was to be from April to June 1949, and by the end of 1948 preparation for the tour was well advanced, even to the point that New Zealand had gone ahead and struck a crown for the tour. But at the end of 48 the King became unwell. He had arteriosclerosis, which is blocked arteries, which was a consequence of his very heavy smoking. It's estimated he smoked somewhere between 750,000 and 1 million cigarettes in his life, and he died at 56. So, I mean, he was smoking 60, 80 a day. He was basically smoking all the time he was awake. And the only treatment back in 1948 was rest. So he was sent to bed and told to stay there for several months. So the 49 tour was cancelled, but New Zealand decided to go ahead and issue the crown because they'd already struck 200,000 of them. So there is, I think, a theme, if somebody wants to research coins that were issued for events that never happened. So that's your starter for that topic. Anyway, following that, everyone was surprised that the King's health improved throughout 49 and into 1950, and it was announced that the tour was reinstated for the beginning of 1952. So it was to take place between sort of February, April, May of 1952. And unfortunately, again, in the end of 51, sort of October 51, the King was diagnosed with lung cancer. And the only possible treatment was, the cancer was in his left lung, the only possible treatment was removal of the lung. And from that point on, the King was basically an invalid. But rather than cancel the tour in 52, it was announced that Princess Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh would undertake the tour. And at this point, the Australian government decided that it would have a commemorative coin for the 52 tour to be undertaken by Princess Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh. And this is really where I wanted to talk about. But the plans for having a commemorative coin for 52 were very held up by the fact that Australia had decided to have a commemorative florin for the 50th anniversary of Federation in 1951. And the work on this coin happened so late in the year, it didn't actually enter circulation until November 1951, right at the end of the year. So work on producing a coin for 52 for Princess Elizabeth's visit couldn't start until after all that was over. the designer of that coin, and I don't know whether this is going to mess up. Can you show that, Rod, that
Yes.
piece of paper?
It's the connecting rod that.
So the designer of the coin, the 51 coin, was William Leslie Bowles, who had been born in Sydney in 1885. He was a sculptor, rather than a coin designer, he was a sculptor. And in 1910 he went to London to pursue his career as a sculptor. He served in the army during the war, and after the First War he worked for Bertram McKennell in London. McKennell, who designed the two effigies of George V on British colonial coins. And anyway, what Bowles' most famous piece of work is his equestrian statue of John Monash, which is outside the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne. And I've got a photograph of that, if we can. Oh, nearly.
Come on. Playing up. Finally.
So yeah, so just pan across to the statue. Yeah, so that's Bowles' most famous piece of work, so I say, the equestrian statue of Sir John Monash in Melbourne. Anyway, the 51 coin was deemed to be a success, so Bowles was asked to design the coin for the 52 visit of Princess Elizabeth. And this is what he came up with. So you can immediately see the link to the 54 coin. The central motif of the kangaroo and the lion is the same, but the main difference is these two coronets in the design, which wasn't on the 54 coin. And the upper coronet here is the coronet of Princess Elizabeth, and the one down here is meant to be a ducal coronet for the Duke of Edinburgh. Well, as I say, work started on this so late that this is a plaster cast. So the Melbourne Mint asked Bowles to design the coin. He produced this plaster cast. The plaster cast was sent to the Australian High Commission in London, and they passed it on to the Royal Mint, which was then on Tower Hill. And at this point we've got to about mid-January. And Sir Lionel Thompson, who was a deputy master at the Royal Mint in London, decided that he ought to check out whether these two coronets really pass muster from an heraldic point of view. So he sent this design to Sir George Bellow, who was the Garter King of Arms, and asked for his opinion. And he came back and said this was correct for Princess Elizabeth, but there was no such thing as a ducal coronet, and in fact this was a crest, and it was the crest of the Duke of Edinburgh. He also said he wasn't really sure whether that mattered from a coin point of view, that one was a coronet and another was a crest. But he did say this was very badly drawn and was bad heraldry because the feathers weren't nearly big enough in relation to the size of the coronet. So a drawing was made. So a drawing was made of how it should look, and that was superimposed on the plaster cast. it also turned out the plaster cast was very brittle when it arrived. In fact, it was so brittle it couldn't be used on the reducing machine. So the only solution was to hand cut a master die or matrix using this as the design. The King George VI approved this right at the end of January, and so work started on producing a master die for that design. Well, on 31st of January 1952, Princess Elizabeth and Duke of Edinburgh set off. You may have seen pictures of them at London Airport with King George VI waving goodbye. Of course, that was the last time they ever met. And by the 6th of February, Princess Elizabeth, Duke of Edinburgh, had got to Kenya when the news came through the King had died. A blood clot on the brain, again all to do with arteriosclerosis. So Princess Elizabeth, now Queen Elizabeth II, immediately had to go back to London. The tour was cancelled and all work on this stopped. Now the Royal Mint have the master die and 2 punches in their collection of tools in Lantriston. I've asked for photographs of them. I was hoping to have a photograph of the punch so we'd actually see what the final coin looked like, but it would have been similar to that. There was one other thing. No one liked the gap in the date and between the O and the R in florin, and we were asked to close that up and evenly space the date and the word. So that was one other change that was made. The Australian High Commissioner in March thanked the Royal Mint for the work and said it would have been a very fine coin. And the Deputy Master, Sir Lionel Thompson, said, well, the lion and the kangaroo, the central motif, could be used again for a future Royal Visit coin. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And can we get the 2 side by side? Yeah. So you can see that's what happened with the 54 coin. There's one slight difference here. The lion is sort of striding here. It looks like he's walking forwards. In the final coin, his 2 hind legs are parallel. I think that was probably done because you get an uninterrupted view of the kangaroo's tail, which is partly covered by this left hind leg in that version. And also the length of the kangaroo's feet is considerably shortened in the final version. And there's more detail on the arms of the kangaroo. And the legend's been rearranged. The word florin's gone to the top. So just the date at the bottom. And obviously the coronet's removed because the Queen is now Queen. So that wasn't of any relevance. There's one final thing which I think is well known. If we can we get so the coin, the 54 Royal Visit florin didn't come out till April, May. Florins were needed, so the regular version was struck in 54. But if we turn it over and compare it to the obverse of the Royal Visit coin, you can see there's a difference in the legend. You've got FD for Today, Day, Thanks Lord, Defender of the Faith in the Royal Visit coin, but not in the 1954 regular coin.
53 and 54, they left the Defender of the Faith off.
Well, what actually happened, there's a brilliant article about all of this in the Numismatic Association of Australia, those books that are produced every year, the volume 3, that explains all this. But it was entirely unintentional that FD got missed off the legend. And what happened was, when the Queen became Queen, the royal style and titles hadn't been updated since 1937. And one immediate problem was that in 1937 George VI was the King of Ireland. That wasn't the case in the Queen in 1952 because the southern part of Ireland became a republic. So for no other reason the titles had to be updated. But also things had changed, and You know, Briton of all, you know, of all the Britons, king of all the Britons, wasn't really appropriate after the war, suggesting that Canadians and New Zealanders were British and so on. So the titles were changed and all that taken out. But so the Australian government said, well, you know, the UK's updated the royal titles. We've done the same. Just copy what the British have done on the obverse of their coins. And unfortunately, the first coin that was struck was a florin. Oh God, can you get that? And what everyone forgot was that on the British florin, oh sorry, yeah. Anyway, Fid Def was on the reverse. Everyone just forgot that not all the royal titles were on the obverse. And just focus on the reverse. Yeah, there you go. So Fid Def was on the reverse of the British coin. So if you just copied the obverse here, you automatically omitted Fid Def. And it was just sort of an innocent mistake. It became a big hoo-ha because Robert Menzies, who was Prime Minister, was asked about it in Parliament. He said there wasn't room on the coin for Fid Def, which was obvious nonsense. So he was accused of misleading Parliament, and he was summoned back by the Speaker to apologise. It all became a big to-do. But anyway, that was corrected in time for the 54 coin. So this, you know, you've got the British 54 florin, the Australian 54 florin with the same obverse, and then FD was restored in time for the.
And it was used on 55s onwards.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. But it was just an innocent mistake, but it became, and there were also religious issues about leaving it out as well, which upset a number of people. And then, just to finish off, on the 50th anniversary, you've probably seen this, but on the 50th anniversary of the coin, so 2004, the Perth Mint, I don't know whether that's going to show through the plastic, but yeah, the Perth Mint struck a 1 ounce silver coin with the design and gilded the design and so on, but I think it's a nice design. I think it works quite well. Nowadays it's not so well regarded as being a bit trite.
It's a nice coin.
And I think it's a nice coin, and I think in the larger version there with the frosted background and the gilding, I think it looks quite nice. But anyway, that's it.
Thank you very much, Howard. I didn't know the story about how they left the FD.
Yeah.
Off, so that's interesting to know that the sequence and how mistakes get made.
Yeah, so it's one of those.
Anyone have any questions for Howard?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is forward?
What, sorry?
What is forward?
What value is
Oh, sorry, 2 shillings. 2 shillings. 20 cents. 20 cents.
Okay.
20 cents. Yeah. Yeah. Right, I just take all this stuff away and.
Grant is photographing them so that we get the nice photos on the.
Okay.
Frank, I think you have a few items to show us. You'll be pleased to know, even though we had trouble with the vision because of the line,
Yeah.
the video recording is perfect. When you see it on YouTube, you wouldn't know that we're not looking at anything.
Right, well, I started at the other end of the spectrum, going back to when we were our first Australian coins. I think you're all old enough to remember the pennies and halfpennies and what have you. About Ross, you wouldn't. Our first Australian coin as such was the, sorry, one over there. This was our smallest coin, which was used from 1911, and it featured the head of King George V, which is on the other side, of course, until 1936. The coin was mainly minted in Birmingham in England until 1919. The 1911 issue was only 2,832,000, so of course at that time our population wasn't all that huge.
4 million, I think. Yeah.
That was plenty to go around. Some of the coins were also minted in Calcutta in India, and they're all of 92% copper. Then after 1919 they were minted in Sydney and Melbourne. Then moving on to the 1915, you might note down the bottom, it's a bit hard to see of course, is the mint mark H, which was for the Heaton Mint in England. There's only 720,000 of them produced, and currently according to Renix, it's worth $50, or up to 9,000 if you've got an uncirculated one.
It's the hardest one to get after the 23. This one's the 15.
Unfortunately, I don't know about unfortunately, but fortunately in one way, but unfortunately another way, I've got the 23 here, but it's very dark, so you probably won't be able to see it. But so you have to use your imagination. There's supposedly only a estimated mintage of 15 to 20,000. Current value is, they start off at about $1,000. Being honest, that's not mine. So it's a borrowed one. Then in
What year was that? Sorry.
23.
1923. And up until that time, on the reverse, we just simply showed the half penny. But then in 1939, we had this was after King George VI was there. Then we changed the reverse to a kangaroo, just to be a bit more Australianised. Yeah, so it's changed from the 1/2 penny in words to showing a kangaroo. Then, following the death of King George VI, the coins then show the head of Queen Elizabeth. I think we're all quite familiar with. Then moving on to our pennies, generally the same history from 1911 to 1939, etc., etc. Things were pretty much exactly the same sort of thing. The one thing I did miss, the 1914. Only had a very small mintage of 720,000 again, but despite its scarcity, it doesn't seem to have done anything with its value. It's still only worth a few dollars, which is a bit surprising when you can compare some of the others. And the The next one, the 1915, again with the H, which was the only year that Heaton did do the pennies. Very small production again, but still only worth a couple of dollars, which seems doesn't follow the trend of most scarce coins for whatever reason. Then we go, I haven't got any, but there's several there with dots above and below the wreaths and what have you that do affect their values. I haven't got one to show at all. And the 19, 20, 21, 22, 24 and 26 coins are all identical whether they were minted in Sydney, Melbourne or Perth, so there's no way of distinguishing which one you've got. Then we move on to 1925, which is Melbourne. There's only 117,000 of them, and currently worth $125 for a VG, up to $22,000 for about uncirculated. And of course the most elusive ones in the penny is the 1930. And of course everybody's had a go at producing one. It's a bit hard to tell, they're both silver plated. And then this is one of the 100th year anniversary that is somewhat larger. So you can't sort of pass them off as a genuine article. They're quite obviously not the right idea. Yeah, we've already done the 25, and then the 1946 is another scarce one. Let's see, since you can hear this. Supposed to be only 363,000 of those. Currently worth, sold off at about $45. Then similar to the halfpenny, with the change of monarch, the obverse went to the Queen. Then our next. Then in 1910, for whatever reason, we had a threepenny bit in 1910, which is 1 year earlier than all of the rest of our coins. But that was a one-off because Edward the Seventh, the night at the head of King Edward the Seventh, there were 4 million of them were minted in London, then shipped to Australia, but Edward died before they arrived, and at that time they were 92% silver. So, then from 1911 to 1936, George the Fifth featured. And unfortunately this one is well worn, but you can appreciate being silver that they don't wear particularly well.
Christmas puddings.
Yeah, possibly so, but look, it might have a bit of treacle on it, you reckon?
You wanted it for the date anyway?
Yeah, well that's basically all I was after. Then from 1911 to 1936, George V featured. There were none minted in 1937, but there were a couple of patents produced, but that's all, they were only a couple, so you'll never see one of them apparently. Unlike the halfpennies and pennies, the threepences were minted in Australia from 1916 in Melbourne. Then we move on to 1920. Let's see, I think it's, hopefully that's the right one, 1921? No, 16, okay, so what have we got in 16?
The 16H, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, just showing, let's say from 16, that's when that's actually minted in Australia. So that's the only particular reason
Oh,
why
to the M16M.
I put on there. What have we done?
George 6,
Sorry, I've got my notes mixed up.
38.
Oh, 1938, that's when the silver content was reduced to 50%.
46.
46, 38 is still 925.
On the Greenwich is just 38, so that's where I got most of my information from. And then the same again, we moved on to Elizabeth in 53. The main reason why the silver content was, during the war, all the silver coins were minted in America because apparently the Australian mining was severely impacted by most of the miners going off to war, so there was no one to produce the silver. But apparently at that stage America wasn't involved, so they had the opportunity of doing it for us.
They needed a lot more coins because of the American troops here too.
Yeah, well, that was it. Okay. Sixpences, which was our next one, I didn't bring any to talk because are basically the same as the threepence. No real differences, and none that of sort of any significant value. And
When did the design change? Of the ribbons?
oh, sorry, yeah, should have put that in. I'm not too sure when that went from the
To the wheat one.
to the wheat sheet. That's about, I think that was about 38 too, wasn't it?
38, is it?
38 was the first one.
Yeah.
I think that was it, yeah.
Yeah, you showed me.
Then our next denomination is the shilling, and again its history is very similar to the threepence and sixpence, so produced at various stages, and the changes were made about the same time. The 1915, there was only 500,000 of them produced. Apparently we had plenty going at that stage. That's from the London Mint. And then there was a 1 year only from the Heaton Mint, 15 again. I don't know whether Heaton fell out of favour or why he only managed to get 1 year's production.
Probably war years.
But might have had something to do with it.
Yeah.
And then the 1921 Star, the Star of course is well worn, it's a bit hard to see there. There's a bit of an oddity in that it was the Star identifies it as the only coin clearly identifying it as having been minted by Sydney Mint. I don't know why it's any different to any of the others, because they're producing one, but for whatever reason they put a star on that one. In the 19...
Wasn't there some reason about them changing the alloy in it at that time?
No, the change was a bit somewhat later than that, so just whatever. I couldn't find anything on that at all.
I thought they were going to reduce the silver and there, but it never happened. So even though they put the star in, the silver content stayed the same.
That's a similar date for those Mackinac square pennies and halfpence.
They were trying to reduce the silver. 21 shilling was, the star was supposed to indicate a reduction in the silver content,
They didn't do it.
but they didn't do it.
No, no,
So
no.
even though the design had the star,
Yeah, well, the other thing I tried was that business about being to identify it.
yeah.
Now, the 25, and though I can't see it there myself, but it was supposed to have been, all the 1925s were supposed to have been struck on altered 1923 dies, which were not used, so they simply changed the 3 to a 5, but to me that's quite clear there. I can't see the any alteration myself.
Yeah.
So what have we got there? And then again, just the change from the emu and kangaroo on the back to and in we changed in 1953 we changed the reverse to the ram's head. And of course the change to the Queen again, as on the others. And moving on to the two-bob or the florin or whatever. Again, pretty much the same history as all the others, so nothing significant. Apart from again the 1914, 1915 mintages were pretty low, they're only around the 500,000. Then in why do these things close up in the first one of any significance is the 1932.
I know where you got that one.
Oh no, you know where I got that one.
Same place I got mine.
Yeah, there was only about 188,000 of those produced, so they're pretty scarce.
This was a coin in one of our earlier auctions, about 10 auctions ago.
What did it sell for?
It was 180 bucks, did we?
200.
200 bucks. Yeah.
Currently, according to Rennick's, about 225. Is it?
What's the value of that coin?
Sorry?
No, it has double value.
It's 1 florin or 2 shillings.
Yeah, well, so one florin or 2 shillings is whatever you want to know it by.
Well, is it 1 florin plus 2 shillings?
No, it's the same thing. A florin is 2 shillings.
Oh, okay.
It's just local, whatever you want to call it. Or some call it 2 bob. So
Okay.
it just depends on what part of the the town you're in. Oh, sorry, I missed the 1915. If we get just jump back again. Again, that was one produced by Eaton. As I said, there's not a lot of them. But again, he had just that 1 year off of producing them.
HP mark.
Then in 1927 we had a commemorative one to commemorate the opening of the old Parliament House, and it's upside down. And it's about the only coin that I know of that's actually, well, supposedly hand inscribed with the date. You know, whether that's right or not, I don't know. I think it's a bit. I'd say it was machine done myself.
It's machine done, yeah.
Supposedly hand done. I can't see anybody sitting down and doing that several
They might have done
hundred
it on the
thousand times.
die, but yeah. On the master
Sorry,
die.
just a silly thing on that coin. Sir William Dixon, Dixon Numismatic Collection,
Yeah.
he made a big fuss in Australia. Why was the U lowercase? He thought the U is lowercase, whereas all the other letters are capitals.
Oh, yeah.
And he made a big fuss about it and wrote letters to Royal Mint. It's just a typeface. That's just
I'd say
what
so,
it is. There's no significance to it. And in-house as well.
The only other significance is that some apparently you can actually see
The steps. Huh?
the steps.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say, whether it's a new dye or a different dye, but there you can, it just looks like a pathway, but in fact if you get the right ones it shows you the steps.
Which you?
Well, sorry, yeah. Just put the coin back. Well, in-house at the top, the U in-house,
Oh yeah.
and the U in Australia. Just after Parliament House Australia, the U's are lowercase, whereas everything else is uppercase. But it's actually just that particular font. That is the way it's designed in typeface. But Dixon made wrote a lot of letters asking was there some significance to it, but there isn't.
It's one of those oversights. Then in the centenary of Melbourne, we had the 34-35 centenary of Melbourne. Now there's only supposedly 54,000 of those. They start off at $200, but then there's a few rarities that actually shows a nipple on the rider. If you get one of them, they start off at about $10,000. The coin was actually meant to be a proof coin, but the process was not implemented, however. However, the dies were used just in the normal striking. Now, I don't know myself just what the different process is to produce a proof coin. I thought it was just in the
Double stroke.
Double strike, yeah.
that was more highly polished and what have you. Then we're moving on. In 1937 and 1938 they did produce crowns. Now, in 37 there was only 1,008,000 of them. In 38 there's only 101,000. They're only issued for those 2 years because of the size and weight of the thing that they're very unpopular. Nobody wanted to carry them around their pocket apparently, so that's all they what's it then.
What's the value of the crown? 5 shillings?
So
What was the value of the crown? Shillings?
5 shillings at that time. The 38 now, they start off around about $100 for it. Now, I don't know what's happened, but I had a few on the notes, but I seem to have not brought them.
No.
The 10 shilling, the pound, and £5.
Oh, you're leaving them for the banknote session that we have in a few months.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's all
Thank
right.
you, Grant. Thank you, Frank. Right. Did anyone else bring Australian coins to show? No.
Have a look at this. This is the new release from the Australian Mint.
Oh, okay. But you don't have the pre-decimal.
No. It just shows the back, the new thing on the back.
I'll show it in a minute. I'll follow the topic first.
Rod, can I, the 1938 crown, that's the 150th anniversary of the first fleet, is it? 1938?
58? 88,
50 to 78.
1938, 150.
I always wondered if it was meant to commemorate that.
150?
No?
I don't know.
Because there's never been an explanation as to why it was struck.
Yeah, well, 1938 is the 150th anniversary, but
Yeah.
they started the crown in 37 though.
Well, that's the coronation,
Right.
George VI's coronation. I wondered if
38 could have been the
whether
150th.
because why, but it was never struck again. So I just wondered if it could be entirely coincidence or whether there was some connection.
Until we find something written
Somebody
somewhere.
needs to
It's
do
only
some research on it.
speculation.
You have to look in the parliament, in the parliament.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
In the handbook.
Well, I brought a few along, and because I knew that Frank would be showing us the selection, I thought I had to bring something slightly different. Which I did. Okay. This is a halfpenny. Quite a nice little halfpenny. 1927 halfpenny. Fortunately, the light here is not very good. But you can, if you look carefully, at that little dot, you will see the start of a die crack. And the coins I brought here are all coins with die cracks or with other slight errors on them. I don't really collect die cracks and errors, but I've got some. So this wasn't one that I was after, but knowing what the topic was tonight, I thought I'd bring something different. So that's 38. Here's a 41. Might be better if I just lift it because the light's pretty bad. It's got a cud and other damage on the top of the coin. So I don't know where that flaw came from, but it looks like it might have been gouged out of the bit behind it, because there's definitely looks like the metal came from there. I don't know if it was done in the minting process or afterwards, but it seems to have fused in with the tea of Australia. (1942). Again, if you can just see the die crack from the star there, just starting at the star, so you can see the die slowly going and the cracks appearing. Come in focus. Right. Hard to pick up the cracks in these. There's definitely a flaw running along that side of the coin where parts have been missing. That one is pretty obvious. There's a whole sliver of the metal has disappeared, and it was obviously in the planchet before the strike went on, because pennies over it. Again, this one, there's a die crack in the star there. You can see it going through, but there's another one between the F and the penny there. So there's a couple of cracks that run through the word penny, but it's hard to see here. And the crack is under the E and penny in this one. You can see the die crack starting. Funny, they all seem to be on the reverse rather than the obverse. The main ones is under the last N in penny coming to the rim, and there's a little dot after penny, and you can see the crack there, and there's a little crack running between the N and the Y in penny 48. Another 48 one. These are all 48. You can see the crack out of the H and the half penny, in between the H and the A. And you can see the start of a crack going from the F to the P. There's a crack in the Y, so it's underneath the Y and to the right of the Y, and with the little dot after penny, so the cracks are forming in that one. And in this one you can just see there's a crack going from the tail to the H and halfpenny. It's just starting, and there's a few cracks between the words penny, between the E and the N and the ends, the two ends, there's little light cracks starting. And in this one again, it's the tail, the die crack runs right through the tail. And they're all 48s, so I don't know if there was something wrong with the metal in the dies that they made the 48s out of. That there's so many cracks, but there's quite a few there. I'll drop them and make the crack even bigger. These are all 55s, and there's a die crack in the end of the Y in penny. You can just see it there. You see it again there. See it again there. See it again there. Again there. There. Let me get the light right so we can see it. There we are, we can just see it there. So they're all in the same place. Very often when you get a run of die cracks like that, you actually see the crack expanding, and if you put 6 or 7 of them together, you see it start off as a small crack, and by the time you come to the end, it's a huge die crack before the die breaks and they have to get a new die. But these 7 coins have the same crack, and it doesn't seem to have grown very much. So these are all the halfpennies that have die cracks and errors on them, and I've got a few pennies as well. There it is. Die crack running off the F of in Commonwealth of Australia. And there's also a die crack running from the N in 1 to the N in penny. And there's a die crack through the 24 as well. So you can see the die is slowly disintegrating. You can just see the start of the cracks between the R, the A, the L, I and A of Australia. So it's metal starting to crack on the die. On this one it runs all the way through the penny. This one's another 42 penny. And it's running against the back of the Y. This one, the crack runs through the 3, or 43, from the rim to the tail. And this 45, it's an edge disturbance. I don't know if that was made in the minting process or afterwards, but it looks like it sort of moved the metal around a bit. And that is my view, so thank you.
Most of those cracks, what seem to be the bottom half of the reverse, didn't they? The die cracks seem to be the bottom half of the reverse.
Yeah, and where the letters are.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the pressure on the letters that is making the metal behind crack or not. This is from George. George, you want to tell us about this?
It's just the new release from this Australian Mint, and they've got a new design for the obverse to commemorate the reign of the Queen. You have to sort of zoom in and show the. Just zoom in on one of the points. And you can see that it says 1952 to 2022 up the top.
Oh, right.
2022, yeah.
So that's how they're getting
So
around
they've
using
added
using the Queen's portrait still. They're giving her.
And apparently it's only for non-circulating coins.
Right.
These are the creatures of the deep coins that just came out a week or so ago. With the different mint marks and privy marks.
Right.
So, the thing of interest is the new design on the back, just to commemorate the Queen's reign.
Did you go there to produce your own at all?
But I managed to pick up a couple of them for Petersham.
At the last meeting, John Veltmeyer was telling us about his dramas of getting the 5.
Yeah.
And he was saying he stood in queue for a little while. He didn't go on the first day because on the first day there were crowds going there. He said everyone was allowed to mint 5 coins, and when they got the 5 coins, they had the 5 different packs drop with them. But they didn't drop properly, John was saying. He said sometimes one didn't work, so you'd get 5 packs, but 2 of them would be the same, or 3 of them would be the same. So you'd have to join the queue again to try and come and get the ones you missed. It's a real nightmare.
Philip managed to find a nice set at Petersham from one of the dealers, so I just picked up a set of 5 from there.
Right. Well, John went and did it all. So, George, you'd like to tell us about your experience at Petersham and some $2 notes you might still have that members might be interested in.
A fortnight ago, I went to Petersham Town Hall to the coin fair. After doing the rounds, and I spent quite a bit of time there, I was asked by 5 dealers if I had a Melbourne centenary or if I knew of one going. going up for sale.
Frank has one.
Frank just showed us a 34-35 Melbourne Centenary. To me, this is probably one of the most beautiful Australian coins before we got on to the modern stuff. George Kruger Gray excelled himself on this particular coin. It is the only Australian coin with a horse on it, and it is the only coin, it is apparently the best copy of a coin of a horse on a coin, compared to Petrucci's
St. George.
St. George and the dragon slaying, St. George on a horse slaying the dragon, and those coins appeared on their crowns and half crowns, etc. The Mexican 1901 peso, a very nice picture of a horse. Russian, German, and modern British, Queen Elizabeth, etc. on crown-sized coins.
Don't forget the Carthaginians, they had beautiful
the
horses.
Jubilee, etc. So obviously there's a shortage of Melbourne centenaries, because this is the first time, after I told them that I had a couple in sets, they wanted to buy the set. And one chap actually came down to have a look at it. The other coin that was also in demand, or two dealers asked me about, was an Australian $5 far lap coin. Far lap was a Melbourne Cup racer.
That's the bimetallic.
Mystery died in the States, and this is a year 2000, low mintage, but also a desirable item. You don't see as many of those as the other $5 coins. So while there, if I can just give you a sales speech, I took a lot of Australian banknotes, especially $1 and $2 ones, in uncirculated condition, and sequence numbers, running numbers in sequence. And I sold a fair few, but I bought a few in case you people are interested in it, because the notes are below catalogue value and they're in running numbers. All uncirculated.
What signatures?
Bundle of 5 $2 notes, Johnson and Fraser, for $35. 10 running numbers for $75, if anyone's interested. That's about all.
They all the same, are they? All Johnson Frasers?
Anyhow, hang on to your Melbourne centenaries if you've got them.
How much for the, do you have dollar notes, George?
Do you
$1 notes?
Do you have dollar notes as well?
Yeah.
And are they the same price, 35 and 75?
You'll see him later.
Okay,
See Paul, he's interested.
maybe the dollar notes.
Does anyone else have any other recent acquisitions? Laurent?
No? I'll talk to you.
Recent acquisition, but since I was coming for the first time to the coin price, I've got some coin. You will see what's wrong with them, and I want to know if they're fixable. If anyone knows of way of cleaning them. I know the gentleman told me soak them and brush them with a toothbrush. I've done that. Some of them came out clean, but some of them haven't. So if anyone has any trick on how to clean that up, if it's cleanable, I would be very happy to hear about it.
We always say, don't touch them.
Don't touch it.
But basically,
You're not interested in those $2
occasionally take a pick out of the dirt around.
Yeah, I've soaked them for a couple of days and then I brush them with a toothbrush and
It'll even show up. Anybody looks at that will see it.
Yeah, it's really hard to,
so
Laura.
that's not fixable basically.
Yeah.
You can find them in change still, so you can find better examples occasionally in change. You can get them.
I've got about 30 or 40 of
Yes.
those, very good, but this one came out with, not perfect, so I was wondering if anyone knows a way of cleaning it. And same with those, I've got...
Can I just say one thing? People often overlook just washing them in soap and water. You'd be amazed what muck will come off a coin.
In soap and water?
Just washing it in soap and water.
You mean like dishwashing? or something?
Dishwashing.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Some of them...
No, not in a dishwasher, just hand washing.
Yeah. The dishwashing liquid. Yeah, I've done that. Some of them came up clean, but some of them no success. And I was wondering if anyone knows if there is a way they know of. Because it's like the peel and stick stamp. Most people, when they remove them of paper, they damage the back of the peel and stick. But there's a way of not damaging them, which most people don't know about.
By the time the coin gets to that sort of state, it really doesn't matter. It's been around.
Yeah.
You can experiment as much as you like because it's it's a $2 coin and it's always going to be a $2 coin.
Oh, totally agree with you.
Yeah. So it's
The other thing is acetone. Have you tried acetone?
Acetone.
Acetone.
So what do? You dip them in
It's
acetone?
it's better known as nail varnish remover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nail polish remover.
If you use nail varnish. But I mean acetone, all coin dealers use it because it dissolves grease.
Okay, so what do?
And also
You soak them in there, or?
Yeah. But it also dissolves verdigris, which is the green mark you get on coins. All coin dealers use it. I mean, they won't admit to it, but all
That's what I'm
coin
asking.
dealers use it.
That's what I'm asking
And-
you guys because you're into coins big time.
Yeah.
I thought I'd bring them around and ask for advice. So you think acetone?
Acetone.
So
Yeah,
soaking them and then brushing them, or
No, just soak them.
soak them? How long for?
And it'll just lift off.
How long for? You need to go in there for? What do you suggest?
Not very long.
But you have to do it outdoors because you don't want to
have to
do it
do what?
indoors. Do it outside.
Oh,
not
okay,
inside.
because of the smell. Yeah,
Because of
yeah.
the smell and the vapor,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
highly flammable, so you have to be
Yeah.
very
But
careful.
all coin dealers do it.
Okay.
They don't admit to
So
it.
you recommend soaking them in acetone?
Yeah.
How long for?
Not very long. I mean,
A couple of minutes.
After half an hour, it will have evaporated anyway.
Okay. Right.
You're wasting your time on that.
Pardon?
You're wasting your time on that.
Yeah.
Not worth doing.
On that, okay, all right. And I've been into coin for a short time, but I believe a couple of $2 coins are quite rare. There's obviously the 2012 Red Poppy, and this following one, which was the Queen Crown, and I got one a couple of days ago. I was wanting your advice on that one too. What do you think about it?
We're waiting for the image to come back. Okay.
Yeah. So I sort of put it into a coin box and on a Queen Elizabeth cover, basically.
This
which,
is the purple one, the 2013.
if you want to take it out of the box, you can, of course.
Yeah.
It's no problem. But yeah, I've seen that one in every books, and everyone told me it's one of the more expensive one, with the red poppy, obviously.
It's definitely worth more than $2. Definitely.
Yeah. So what sort of?
More, especially in that condition.
It's good condition.
Yeah.
It's uncirculated.
Yeah,
It's
so
a
I said
good
to
find. It's
Jo-
a good find from
That's what I said to George. He was asking me earlier, is it good condition? I said, I looked with my fine glass, I thought it was pretty good, no scratches or nothing. But then again, it's a circulated coin. So I've looked on eBay for those coins, and there's 4 currently on eBay. They go from $80 starting price to up to $110 starting price. So,
What condition?
pretty, they were circulated,
Almost
obviously,
like new.
they're not mint, they're circulated, they're not in the presentation pack or anything like that. Yeah, they're starting them at $80 and they go up to $110 for the starting price. So if I put this one on the website, what sort of price I should expect or starting on to?
Never know.
Because the one I saw were basically just the coin by itself I work on to putting it with the first cover, you know, which has got the same crown. I think it's the same crown inside. So I don't know if that's sort of going to be adding some value to it, or so. What's your opinion on how much I should put it for sale? If put it for
Well,
sale?
have you seen them at $80? Are they selling at $80?
They were the starting price. They didn't have any bid.
So, yeah,
So I don't know how long they've been there because I looked on it a couple of days ago.
It's anyone's guess, Laurent. I mean, if you want to sell it fast, you start at $50.
Yeah.
If you want more, it might take a bit longer to sell.
Oh yeah. You see, yeah. So your suggestion is around $50 to start with
Put it this
cover
way,
like this.
doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's the hardest $2.
Following the red poppy. Yeah.
Red poppy, yeah.
The red poppy is the first one. That's the second one. I believe.
But the red poppy never went into circulation. You can only get it from packs. Whereas,
The red poppy?
Yeah, this one was in circulation.
Okay.
This is a circulating coin.
Yeah.
Came
Okay.
out-
So the red poppy didn't go into circulation.
Red poppy. The red poppy was Canberra Mint made it, and they
For the
sold
pack,
it
yeah.
in the pack,
Yeah.
and they sold them to the RSL who put them in packs. So,
So
the
they
red
never-
poppy
so
never
they
got
never
into
went
circulation.
into
Just
circulation.
the ordinary poppy went into circulation, but not the red one.
Not. Yes. You mean the gold one, the gold poppy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got about half a dozen of those.
Yeah.
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 But I haven't got any red poppy yet. I've got the centenary of World War II poppies.
In 2013, when this came out, we were getting them because the ANS started in 1913. So we wanted the coin for our centenary.
Yeah.
And we made medals, encased $2 coins. That one. ANS medals.
And that coin.
Yeah. But by the time it was made into the medal, they're no longer uncirculated. They're probably VFEF coins, but in our medal.
Has putting them in the metal increased their value or reduced it?
No.
Don't know.
No, I don't think it's increased because it's just encased in an ANS ring.
Yeah.
If you look at the ANS dies and medals, you'll see it under 2013, which is when we made it. Because 2013 was the centenary.
Yeah.
And we encased 2013 halfpennies and 2013 sixpences and shillings. And
Yeah.
we gave an encased 2013 shilling to every member. That was the 2013 membership medal, encased shilling. And the interesting thing with the 2013 shillings was they were hard to find. When I started making the medals and whatnot, we started about 10 years earlier. In 2003, we said, okay, for the centenary project, we're going to encase the 2013 shilling and give to all members. So we had 180 members in that day. So we had to get at least 180 2013 shillings.
Wow.
And when I went to the dealers at Petersham and everywhere else looking for the 2013 shilling, the average 2013 shilling in fine condition was costing $15.
You mean 1913? You mean 1913?
Sorry, 1913. Yes, 1913 shilling. And so I was getting them, but we wanted better ones. So again, I was looking on eBay for the better ones because we said to members, if you want a better 1913 shilling encased, you give us the shilling, we'll encase it, and you'll get it back. So you have a nicer shilling. Otherwise, you get just the average one that we're paying $15 for. Well, because I had to get 200 shillings, they weren't easy to find. I was at the start. I was very worried about finding 200, and I was buying the better ones on eBay, and I was getting them from the UK. And it made sense because the Anzac troops went across, and when they were based in the UK, they had Australian 1913 shillings in their pocket when they went over there. And they spent them because it's the same size, same level as the...
So instead of using the British coin.
And yes, I got probably 20 or 30 VF and better 1913 shillings from the UK.
Well, they were better, they would have averaged out better grade, like you just
Yeah,
yeah.
because they really didn't circulate very much over there. But they were costing like $30 there. They weren't cheap.
Are there any in the upcoming auction?
Those ones,
Yeah.
well, most of them have gone, but yeah, I've still got a few, so I can put them in some of the auctions to try and recoup some of my money. But the prices have gone up.
Yeah.
So, are there any other recent acquisitions?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Laurent.
Oh, sorry, just before, so Rod told me there's no auction at the end of this meeting, but I belong also to about 8 different stamp clubs. I'm going to a stamp club on tomorrow night and Tuesday night and maybe Wednesday, and I've got some coin covers here. If you're interested to have a look at some of those at the
Anybody's
end.
interested?
Yeah.
Laurent produces his own coin covers.
So
As 30
I will have them at the back if you're interested in looking at them. But they're going in the auction for otherwise if they don't talk to us. Yeah.
Radio, Paul.
Okay, in the interest of peripheral parts of numismatics, I dug up through my affairs. I don't know if all you know, I'm going through the house of my mother and my deceased father to clear it. And
How is your mum?
She's fine, thank you very much. She's good. So one of the things I found is one on the trip to Russia, or the Soviet Union back in the day. This is an exchange. This is what you had to fill in to exchange. But we lived in Switzerland at the time in Geneva, so we took in money cash. It wasn't really a credit card economy yet. So this is part of the effort that you had to go through in order to exchange currency. This is similar to many countries in the former Eastern Bloc. So all that effort, my father's signature over here, Peter Newman, the currency, the date, 86. This is how they did it. So this is actually done on Christmas. They didn't recognize Christmas in the Soviet Union as our Christmas, what is it? What calendar do we have? A Gregorian calendar? Anyway, they have a different calendar. So Christmas Day, 25th of December, 1986, 100 Swiss francs was changed by my father. Now the 25th of December is a official holiday in Russia. But so interesting point. I think I will keep that in my collection. The other thing, and I asked forbearance by Ross Bradley and John Minukos here. They've already seen it, but I'd like to show it to the rest of the community. I purchased an item on the basis that it was signed. This was signed by the president of the country at the time, the president of Colombia.
You showed us that last month.
I showed us
We
that.
have it on the earlier video. Yeah.
Oh, did I? Okay, well then we'll.
We haven't seen it. What is it?
Oh, you have seen. Okay. For the interest of the new members, this is Eduardo Santos, who was just recently installed at that time as the president of Colombia, which he led into the war. The reason for the signature and the reason that I've got it is because it was signed on behalf of an aviator that came down from the United States on the mission by the U.S. Air Force to get people into line. So this is on a return trip from Buenos Aires when he landed in Colombia on his plane, and the president of the country. This was a famous aviator who was the son of one of the Siamese twins at the time. It was the Chang brothers, but they were Siamese twins. So, and he was the son, and he actually visited Colombia on the mission of U.S. Air Force. And they were both members of
What year are you talking about?
1938.
38.
Okay, so this is very critical because it's getting people in line to the United States to see who's on their side politically in terms of the events in Europe. So this is something that is not often talked about. But in terms of what's of interest to this group, is this, and I don't think I showed this around. This was issued at the same time. This was also to go into commemoration Now this
Actually, the 450th, was it?
400th.
400.
Yeah, 400th anniversary of Bogota. Now the key thing is actually the holder. Yeah. And the coin is the metal as well, because the metal is very uncommon in that grade. Why is it uncommon in that grade? Metals don't circulate. Because of this. This was not, you never find this, the holder, or at least I haven't found it anywhere offered or mentioned. And the holder protects the metal. So the holder, I don't know if that was given to a limited amount of dignitaries or anything, or not. The other thing, what makes this
This is the 400th anniversary of the mint in Bogota?
No, the 400th anniversary of the city of Bogota, Santa Fe. Santa Fe was Santa Fe de Bogota. The other thing which makes this thing interesting is the portrait of the ruler of the time. So this was a portrait of the king. I think it was Ferdinand VIII, but I didn't do research correctly on that one. But it was one of the actual portraits of the person, rather than the portrait which was used at the coins at the time. So there's actually a story about that. And the only place where where I've seen the metal offered frequently is an auction company in Florida. So there's an auction company in Florida which is specialized in carved coinage and in Latin American designs. So anyway, this is a commemorative signature of the president of the country. So I thought it cost me all of 260 US plus the juice plus customs. Customs I had to pay for it.
Right here?
No, in Indonesia. They took me to the cleaners, and I've got it.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other items of interest or questions? If not, thank you all for attending. I'm glad to see such a large turnout in our first meeting in this location.
You mentioned an auction. You have an auction in the club? No, not tonight. I'm saying
We have an online
online auction. When does that
Give me your email address. Add you to the email group, and you can look at it online. Consider. There will be 200 boxes produced in the next
What's the medal made of?
Silver. But I think it's not a star metal. I think it would be a similar silver content as the other 8 reals at the time. So it's an 8 real.
Okay, yeah, it's a machine made of gold.
But it was struck. So the coat of arms. But the reverse is very interesting. I think the faces of Republic, I don't know why they came on it. The others, they would be loose and they've already, I haven't seen one which is you can say this is a strong. So my interest is, I mean, I'm a series of Portuguese colonies in Turkey, but this is just peripheral.
In Indonesia, it's Dutch.
Yeah,
So why Portugal?
I